Hi, welcome to my journey. My name is Cherie. Well, today I'm deciding to get out. Okay, I've been in the house. I've been grieving the loss of my pet, Snoopy, who has left me after 19 years. You know, it is definitely not the same without her. And I think that's part of the reason why, I was like, well, she had grounded me so much because she was a pity mix. And of course, they're bandit breeds in most places, especially in rental properties. Um, so that's why I'm like, now that she's gone, should I consider, maybe actually doing a rental? And I've been to a couple of senior communities, you know, not really, actually talking about it, but just seeing if I would like to live in that neighborhood or, a lot of times, the community itself seems like it's okay. The ones that I visited, they've been pretty quiet. Um, but, you know, 30% of what they're actually charging, 50% or 60% of what they're, would charge, someone else. I don't know. It just doesn't seem. Uh, I mean, it's doable, but do you want to? I mean, do you want to? You know, I mean, anytime I think of rental, I think of, you know, um, lightweight furniture, you know, or very minimalistic because you're moving and you know, and no telling, if you're gonna have to, move again. And that's one of the things that I've heard, a lot of seniors who had transitioned from apartment to apartment to apartment to apartment, you know, talk about that moving cost, and how, it was costing them too much to move their furniture from place to place to place to place, that they was forced to become a minimalist. And then, just the fact of, having to sign a new contract and, and spend more money if you stay, just was so frustrating that some of them, they just went into vehicle living. Hold on. So today is the last of Leo season, and it's been hot. Yeah, like that fire. Okay. And now we're getting ready to go into Virgo season. So yeah. And of course, I ran out of water flavoring. So for that reason, I know I had to get out and at least go and buy some more so that I could stay hydrated. Alright? But I need to stay hydrated. And also, to see how the world is doing. See how the world is doing. I mean, I hear, so much happening in other parts of the world. Yeah, the flooding, the earthquakes, the hurricanes. Yeah. But here, we have a heat wave. I used to love that song, Heat Wave. Oh, feel like, I end up saying the same thing over and over and over, So I haven't really been posting too much. Except, for the fact that I feel like I probably need to do something, something needs to happen. Let's just say it like that. Something needs to happen. My circumstances needs to happen. A part of me is like, okay, in another dimension, if I had gave up the house and decided, to move into, a senior community, maybe I could go swimming, work out, develop some friends. I mean, it ain't all bad, okay? It ain't all bad. It ain't just, being a minimalist and moving, But it could be, developing relationships and, something that I haven't, done since, the grand betrayals that I've experienced. I mean, and they were on a mega level. I mean, I never would have thought it would have happened to this extent. But hey, life can be weird sometimes. And then another part of me is like, well, you have some options, and you don't want to make a mistake in the best from the best option. You don't. At least I don't. I've heard so many people who are like, just do something. We all make mistakes, and that's human. And I'm like, Don't talk to me about me making a mistake and, and there's suffering, and that's just human. Right? And God knows I don't want to, make other people suffer either. Right? I'm not that type of person. Okay? I'm just not. So I would rather me suffer for my own mistakes than for other people to suffer for my mistakes. But not everybody's like that. So that's why, I do take a long time before I make a move. And anytime somebody tells me, you have a short amount of time, or you have a short window to make this move, I definitely start to feel like, maybe I'm messing around with, predestination if I have to jump on it. That's how I feel. But I'm a woman. Okay, I'm a woman, and like I said before, I feel like as women, there's something about us that is, predestined because of our ovaries, right? Our ovaries, we get them when at the time of birth. We stick with the same ovaries for all of our life, right? Until we reach menopause. And then when we reach menopause, then, they start to dissolve, right? And so I was feeling like, okay, well, does that mean that, now that my ovaries have dissolved, have I already fulfilled my contract? The destination? Pretty much, yeah, pretty much. I mean, I know I've had a couple of kids. That was fulfilled, right? And, you know, I don't know. You know, what there would be to fulfill, you know, in regards to if any kind of benefit, you know, that was for my mom, for her to have me, okay? But it was definitely fulfilled because she's also, you know, has expired, and so has my father. So I feel like that should make me, you know, a sovereign entity, a sovereign spirit on this earth. But I see things differently from what I see and from what I hear, right? That, you know, you have people calling themselves emperors and empresses, and, you know, and I don't see it in their chart, you know. Maybe a king or a queen, you got all of, you know, 3 signs of an element, but everything else, you know, you had to have done you had to have done some alchemy. Now, some people will say, you know, doing alchemy is not playing God, but it's, you know, it's like free will. You know, you had the free will to change, you know, to change your destiny. And I'm like, oh, okay, you know, whatever floats your boat. You know, that doesn't float my boat because, you know, I of course, you know, I have a fear of the Most High Creator. I do. You know, other people, you know, they don't fear the Most High Creator, but obviously, you know, they fear, you know, living the path that they chose before even coming down onto this planet. All right? So let that stick with you. Hold on. Dang, that Taco Bell went out of business. And it don't take long for them to remove the signages and stuff. And board that place up. It don't take long at all. So, yeah. On one hand, you know, it feels like things are trying to get better, but then you just go down the road a little more and you start to see that, oh my gosh, you know, another business done bit the dust. So, I don't know. I keep thinking that, you know, this whole make everybody broke is because otherwise people would be unwilling to go to, you know, a communist system or a socialist system. membership to the car wash. However, so I think that was one of the things that was supposed to happen during the 2020, global stoppage, was that they were supposed to figure out a way, to get people, to restructure. Okay, because we're talking about having, a global market. How do you restructure in a global market, right? How do you, give wages when the wages was built off of a particular demographic, right? And that was the cost of living for that area. So I guess they're still trying to figure it out, and they're not having much success at it, except to say, well, the best probably way is to to break most people, if not the majority of people, right? And then it will be simple. It will be simple because nobody will have any grounds, to stand on. They don't have the money in the bank. They don't have the savings that they thought that they was going to have, because they've already used it up, just trying to survive. Companies, they've stopped giving pensions, and even if, you do get with a company that, has a pension, you're not going to last long enough, because they know how to sabotage your work. They know how to, what's going on up here? Hold on. So, I mean, just think about it. How many people, lost their homes, through the flooding and through the tornadoes, just in this last year alone. And many of them, are not able to, rebuild because they don't have the deductible required to rebuild, because they're not making the money that they probably used to make before, all of these things started happening. So, yeah. I mean, I know I'm talking common sense. I know I'm talking common sense. Right? Well, let's be honest. Common sense isn't that common anymore. That's the sad part. So, and sure, they want to say that, it was only designed for, maybe a specific population or something like that, for, to get the women out of the workplace and to get the minorities out of the workplace. But can they really survive that way? I mean, yeah, maybe they could, they know how to grow the crops, they harvest, all of the, the seeds and stuff in order to plant. I mean, the only thing that, you can continue to grow without seeds are roots, like potatoes and carrots and some onions, and they don't need seeds. if you have them. I forgot this is rush hour. I'm in the middle of rush hour, and I hate it. Ugh, I hate it. It's enough to, make me quit my job, and I don't have a job. Okay? So yeah, I just thought I would get out here early in the morning, take a ride, talk my shit, and then go to the store, and then skedaddle back to the house. Like I said, until I get a signal as to what I'm supposed to be doing, I ain't gonna be doing nothing. So, with all of these homes out here damaged from this bad weather and earthquakes and shit and drought, whatever, I don't see how the home prices will go down. Yeah, so they just seem like they're gonna go up. Yeah, but then I mean, just like I was thinking, 700, I think it was like, what was it? 670 square feet for a one-bedroom apartment. That's small. But it's not like, living in a 400 square feet apartment, a studio. And then there's always that other option. The other option is, hey, do you like some of these other people? They live on cruise lines. Yeah, they live on cruise lines. They live on cruise ships. That's how they do it. I couldn't live on a cruise ship because I know very good and well I'll get seasick. Looks like they finally opened up this area of the lake. So yeah, we're not gonna do the whole lake in totality today. We're just gonna do a small portion, just enough to feel the vibe. Because nowadays, the stores, they be closing and they open up early in the morning. I mean, it used to be a 24-hour situation where, you can, go to a grocery store any time of day. But here we are. I like it down here. I do. I'll pull over for a minute. Just soak in the view. Give you a view. Yeah. I made some videos down here with my Snoopy and the little puppy, But yeah. And these guys, they're like, well, we're just just gonna take up the road, you know. Even though there's pedestrian pathways here. Yeah. So anyway, and that's not to say that they haven't been building these mansions and stuff down here by the lake. Because they have been tearing down these old places and replacing them with modern new homes, right? Modern. The same material that we would typically have thought was a commercial property. And that's what I had often said. I'm like, you know, if I had the opportunity, I would love to make my house a modern house. You know, made of the same materials that they had, you know, used for commercial properties. You know, all of those little designs and stuff is not necessary for me. You know, I just need basic block. Basic block. No ranch style home, nah. There's another one. I'm gonna ride down the street where the cars go. That's not really a bright idea, ma'am. So yeah, it's 82 degrees out here at 8 o'clock in the morning. So it's pretty warm. To be about 10 o'clock, it starts to feel hot. It starts to feel hot. And it's like the heat just turns up all through the day until you get about, oh hell, shit. You might as well say until sunset. Until about sunset. And that's when it feels a little bit more comfortable. But until then, you know, I'll just be waiting to sleep between the hours of 10 a.m. and 4. Because the little time that I've been out, my arm and my leg on this side, I don't know how it got suntanned. Like, how the hell? It's like 3 shades darker than this side. So the sun ain't joking, and I ain't even been out that long. And the little time that I was out, it was like a flash. It was like a flash baking. And sometimes I'd be in the house thinking that, am I baking in the house? Because it's so hot in the house. So maybe I'll write a book and really talk about my suffering. But, you know, of course, I'm too embarrassed to talk about it right now. But once I get over it, I might be able to talk about it. Like, if if I'm able to get through, if I'm able to get through this, hindsight, I can talk about it. Hindsight. So there's a couple of things I wanted to get from the Dollar Tree. Flexible toothpick, dental floss things that I would get from the Dollar Tree. What else? Now they have water flavoring there too, but they sell the individual packets. Get like 5 or 6 for $1. And yeah, that's twice as much as if you would have bought it in bulk. So Winco it is. Will hold on to a system that they can't win, right? They can't win. Just like they want to hold on to the fact that they want to enslave women. They're not going to win at that. And they're not going to have a woman that, is going to feel like they were genuinely loved. It's just a losing situation. Even if you get her really young and you think, okay, Stockholm Syndrome, and she's gonna, give you her energy, that's why so many of them end up getting a divorce, once the kids are grown up. Once the kids are grown up, there's like, yeah, I never did like him, because it's a system that they don't like, but they hold on to it for dear life, right? And just like with the reset that should have happened in 2020, right? They're still holding on to this system that's not working. It's not working, and they're holding on to it tooth and nail, okay? And that's why I said, it just seems like, because, they're willing to hold on to it and, die for something, a system that's not working for them, is, I don't know, it's delusional. It's delusional. It's crazy delusional. So, and that's what we've been experiencing. We've been experiencing the fall of the cognitive dissident man. Right?